Hi, Tom and Phil. Welcome to
Hi.
the show. Thanks so much for coming on.
Hi, James. It's great to be here.
Yeah.
Great to be here.
Likewise. I'm excited for this conversation. It's there's a lot to cover, a lot to unpack. You've got interesting journeys and all about growth. So you both started TechSolvers about 16 years ago, which is, in this tech space, which is very startup heavy, is pretty good going, like to have that longevity. What inspired you to take the leap, to create your own company together?
Well, I think it was really we'd got to a point working in enterprise IT together, and we've been involved in many projects together even back then. So me and Phil have been working together probably for about 20 years in total. And we just got to the point where we were designing systems on paper more for large enterprises, and then they would go off to India and offshore. They'd be built and supported from there, and we weren't really talking to our customers anymore, with the users in large enterprise or the clients in an MSP world. So we decided that's what we'd like to do. So we wanted to build TechSolvers as the IT company we wanted to work for, where we could be hands-on again and build things and support them and deal with speaking to the customers at the same time.
Yeah, nice, interesting. What about you, Phil? Like, what was the inspiration?
It's very similar. I think for myself it's kind of a natural progression. I think we both worked for organisations as an employee. At the time we met, we were sort of contractors, consultants to large enterprise, and sort of like we never shied away from sort of like challenges and everything like that. And starting up the business it seemed like the next logical step for me personally in my career was to do something where I work for myself and not beholden to anybody running my day to day. But deciding what I want to do when I wake up in the morning was really those early days. Yeah.
For sure. It's interesting you mentioned that because I resonate with that a lot. That's kind of the reason why I started a business for the freedom of being your own boss. And then it's kind of crazy what happens because it starts out like that, and then if you're not careful, you can kind of just design yourself into then being serving clients, but in a way where you don't feel free anymore. And that kind of is a really interesting path and journey that takes.
You go from having one boss to having lots. 20,
sure.
30, 40. And, again, customer service driven stuff. It's, our customer is everybody. We've always seen anybody asking me a question is my customer. So we now have thousands of bosses.
That does take away some of the flexibility we originally had when you realise that they start contacting you at 8 o'clock in the morning and finish and all the way until 6. But thankfully, we've got a good team to help us do that now.
Yeah, for sure. So you both started the company as co-founders, and you are both technical. So like Tom, you've got the title of MD, and Phil, you've got the title of technical director, but you are both technical founders. How do you complement each other as co-founders? What made you confident you could build a business together?
Well, I think technically we complement each other really well, and that's why we had always worked together. So my background was all around application delivery, end user experience, operating system deployment to thousands and thousands of PCs, and Phil was the person putting in the servers and the networks to support all these devices. So between us, we actually came to, when we founded TechSolvers, we had all the technical third line skills we needed. It was all the other things that we didn't have. We didn't have a knowledge of sales and marketing. We'd never started a business. So there was an awful lot to learn around there. And I think we bounced ideas backwards and forwards between us all the time and actually learnt these things. And not some of them well, some of them not so well. We've learnt a lot of lessons on the way.
It's you kind of got to jump in with 2 feet and really learn along the way. Like you said, it's an uphill, steep learning curve, But yeah, there's no other way to do it really, is there?
No. I remember when we started, we needed kind of marketing. The one thing we did have was technical ability. So I remember teaching ourselves web design, putting together a first CMS system and aiming and starting with SEO. So we didn't have any money to start, so we just started doing it all ourselves and managed to get to page 1 for IT support Hertfordshire and all those kind of things. We've never got there for London, it was too competitive. But that was enough to get us clients picking up the phone and ringing us.
And it is, you kind of start out, like, obviously you've got your own expertise, specialist background where you're wearing one hat, and you specialize that in. And then when you become a business owner, you take on 5, 6 other hats that you've got to put on at different times. And it's, how do you navigate that? It's crazy.
No.
Experience, lots of, lots of mistakes, lots of, and never giving up. It's some of the things around sort of managing a business by numbers and all of that. We were never really good at that, and that got better. And then managing people, and that's always been they're challenging things, but I think it's things we accept to we step back from the technical side and accept that's part of our business, and it's all fun. It's all fun.
Yeah. And that you kind of have to have the attitude as well that, it is all fun, like falling in love with the journey and the process, not getting attached to outcomes. It's all, it's part of the mindset shifts that you've got to make as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been, there's been ups and downs, but then areas when we've had to learn lots more, but we've enjoyed it. And that's the key part. And it did become the business we wanted to work for, which was our aim all the way from the start. And we get up in the mornings and most of the time, not every day, we're happy to be there and, I enjoy my job, which is a great thing.
Yeah. So you mentioned there, creating a company you want to work for. Tell me a little bit more about that story and what it really meant to you both.
Yeah, I mean, Tom mentioned it earlier. It was when we were working for large organisations, just becoming that sort of we were scoping out solutions and telling other people what to do and them delivering it. And my job has always been sort of like around server engineering, network engineering. Is there's some great parts to it. It's not just the nuts and bolts software of what we're doing as well. I mean, I love putting together racks and connecting stuff up. It's like Meccano to me. It's like, building a PC to me is like a Lego set, or building a rack is like a Meccano set. It's just, and the more you come away from doing that, the more you kind of miss sort of like what helps, what you started out as. I mean, both me and Tom were, when we first started in IT, we were both Helpdesk roles. That's where we, many years ago, 30 years ago, or whatever, that's where we started our business, answering questions, being customer service. And we both got our specialities and moved up. But then and personally, as I've moved up, building this stuff, being in big data centers and sort of walking in and, playing with millions of pounds worth of equipment, it's great stuff to do. And the less you do that, the more, it really is part of my, part of me technically is going out there and putting a rack together. I mean, and I still do it now. We posted on our LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago. We did a job for a customer where we pulled all of their cables out of the rack that looks like spaghetti junction, and we've put them all back in, and it looks tidy, and we do before and after picture and everything like that. But I still do that myself because I get massive value out of doing everything. So from a technical side, being able to do the job, deliver it end to end, is really important to me. And seeing how it benefits the customers directly by having direct conversations with those people is important.
I'd agree. It's an example of how things have changed for me. Previously, before TechSolvers, you might do part of a project. I might design the technical solution for it, but now I get to sit there. Our clients trust us. We have to be a trusted advisor to them, or MSPs don't work. So we can talk to them I talk to them from the beginning of a project. We're designing what the requirements are. We find the solution. I'm still involved with it all the way to the point where we then build it, document it, hand it over to our support teams to provide the ongoing support with us as the third line for it. And that's rather than being siloed off and just doing one part of the job. I'd love being involved in the entire thing from start to finish. And that's why I get my satisfaction seeing these things, these projects actually work and land successfully and give the clients what they wanted, their return on investment.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and it's as the business owner now, you kind of have the say and the control over that end-to-end process instead of just being reassigned different projects as you were previously. So makes sense.
Yeah, I'd struggle to go back to work for someone now. That's the one thing. After 16 years doing this, I don't think I'd be a good employee.
Yeah, you definitely become unemployable as a business owner for sure.
I think I'd go the other way personally. I think if I was to go and do another job after this, I'd probably go back to working on a help desk and just for the rest. Just go and answer questions. It's start at 9, finish at 5, whatever. Great. Work anywhere in the world. Digital nomad. That sounds perfect to me.
Yeah, what are some of the key moments then, over the years that have really defined the evolution of TechSolvers?
I think the first one would have been just what was happening in technology when we started. So nowadays everyone's heard of Office 365, and it's basically running the majority of businesses around the UK in the back end for email and document storage and communication. But 16 years ago, it still existed. It just had a different name, and it was called BPOS, the Business Productivity Online Suite, which kind of rolled off everyone's tongue. And because that had just come out, we started using it from day one. So not many people were at the time because it wasn't trusted and everyone was still really using on-premise servers. So that early investment in going 100% cloud for as many clients as we could has stood us in great position as we've gone forward. So now the majority of our clients don't have any on-premise infrastructure, apart from they might be in a managed building with a managed network, or they might have their own internet line into their own offices. But there's very little in terms of servers out there. We still support some, and there's still need sometimes for putting in traditional equipment, but the vast majority of what we do is the cloud. And it was by embracing that from day one of the company, we got ahead of the curve versus some of the existing IT companies that were out there. So that was a big change.
What's the situation now with so being ahead of the curve when you started with taking people onto the cloud? What's the situation now? Is there still big opportunity in that space and that trend? What are your thoughts there?
I think there's a lot less. A lot less companies are left to migrate to the cloud. So many companies have done it. Microsoft encourages us to kind of add 250 brand new cloud seats every year, which is difficult when there's lots of people moving suppliers and they might come to us from somewhere else. But to actually find a company where they haven't already embraced Office 365 is quite rare these days.
What are kind of your thoughts moving forward then when it comes to that? You were in a situation where you're ahead of the curve. Now it's much more of a market aware situation. Are there other how do you progress as a business?
I think what we taking a cloud first mentality. So when we're advising our customers, because customers still come to us and they say, well, we're thinking about using this piece of software and we want to use this, and it runs traditionally on a server. So you got those questions to ask first. Is usually what we ask with those customers is they come to us and they say, I want to run this accounts package. It traditionally runs on a Windows server with a SQL backup, not going SQL database, not going into too much detail, but we try and sort of steer them away from that and say, rather than having to build something yourself and put it into a platform, look at some of the service-driven stuff. So if you're choosing sort of like an accounts package, look at the cloud stuff first. So we always take that cloud mentality first. But there's still customers who need servers, and we tend to put them in a hosted space rather than having physical boxes in a data center and all of that kind of stuff. But nowadays, and staying ahead of the curve, it's all about how the landscape is evolving. I mean, when we started TechSolvers, we were very much students of something called the MSP University, which was sort of an American written sort of framework for starting an MSP, and we found that we were ahead of the curve in the UK. and it's a good lesson we still learn now, is sort of like in the US, they're probably a year to 2 years in front of us in what they're dealing with on the MSP space. But by being in the Reddit community, the Discords, and all of that kind of stuff, taking everything that's in there and and looking at it, we can see what's coming in the EU and the UK, quite quickly, and and joining in with those communities and speaking, and we also mentor another small IT company that's just started up. You have those conversations quite a lot, and yeah, it's at the moment everything is towards sort of the security space and the cybersecurity space. That how we're doing our sort of new terms like sort of endpoint detection and managed detection and all of the cybersecurity stuff. And yeah, that's the cyber insurance forms. And when a customer gets their cyber insurance form in, they come to us. They're asking us the questions around it and everything like that. And we see the differences in that over the last year or two, of the more questions around the cybersecurity side of things being asked by the insurance firms, and and we're there to supply it.
I think that's why we have stayed ahead on technology by jumping straight into security first. We've taken that approach for some time now. So whereas before it was about taking up BPOS or Office 365 first, now we were quite early on with not just saying we offer, for example, this thing called endpoint detection and response, whatever that is, but it is important. But by bundling it in and saying, if you are a client of ours, you get that because you need it. You might not understand it, but we need you to have it, and you've got to follow our advice. And that by then forcing it upon people, they're more secure, and we were learning about these products as well.
That's really interesting. Yeah, keeping a finger on the pulse with the communities like you mentioned. So are they communities of other MSPs? Is that yeah?
Yeah, it's a combination. So it's other MSPs. It's the supplier communities that we use as well. So we get to see a lot in the the MSP communities of what suppliers to really steer clear of, and stuff like that. And from a business point of view, that's really important to us to have a stable relationship with the supplier. But then we're constantly looking at what what new technology is available, how some of those technologies are integrating with AI, whether or not it's secure, and joining in. And it is a community. I mean, from our past, when sort of like the late 90s, early 2000s, when we were working in IT, everyone was about sort of keeping that knowledge to themselves, and knowledge is power, and people, especially in the early days, some of the people I worked for at the time would not let go of any of their knowledge that they'd acquired, because they found it a threat to their jobs. But now it's share. There's plenty of work out there for every one of us MSPs. There's different sizes of MSPs have different target markets and everything like that, but there's plenty of work out there, and as long as you're good and you iron out those things that keep you up at night. When we started, we had things keeping us up at night, so as long as you iron that out, you're good. But I digress. Yeah, the community. I always digress. I've got a grasshopper brain. But yeah, the community itself, just share, engage, we love our job. I spend my time in the evenings, whether or not it's watching YouTube, being in Reddit, being on Discords for suppliers and everything like that. Look at what's coming.
It is interesting how that shift has happened, throughout many different industries. Like I speak to many different founders, and the markets are much more collaborative rather than competitive, like in many senses. There's a collaboration sense, like you say. We're in an information world, so information is so like readily accessible, but it's like the insights and the wisdom that can be shared amongst different businesses that are going through the same struggles, challenges. There's much more collaboration going on than there kind of ever used to be. Yeah. But you are in a competitive market. What's TechSolvers' unique value proposition?
Well, it's a difficult question to say what makes unique out of MSPs, and every MSP wants to have some kind of unique selling point, which I don't think exists. But as a value proposition, we try and keep things simple for our clients. Realistically, we have a single support offering. We provide our outstanding service desk to all of our clients. The decision the clients have to make is just how secure they want to be these days. We have three platforms or three tiered service levels: TechSolvers standard, protect, and compliant. And it's the client. All the client has to do is choose the right service level based around what security they feel they need and where they are in their business. So we make it very, very simple to say, here's your support, choose your security. We don't talk about the jargon and the EDR and the AV and the managed identity. We just give them these three options that allows them to choose a package of products that works for them. And it's kind of jargon-free, simple, and just get it done.
Yeah, makes sense. Like, obviously, clarity, keeping things simple, not overcomplicating with jargon, because confusion just kills conversions and that sort of thing. So, yeah, interesting. So Phil, you mentioned things that keep you up at night. Like, what's been your biggest growth challenge recently? Something that's maybe not working at the level that it could or should.
Look, I mean, it's not so much a growth challenge as the stuff that's keeping me up at night. It's more that it's more the technical stuff on behalf of the client. So you think early days when we were supporting more and more server infrastructure than we are, and early days when sort of ransomware attacks were prevalent and all of that, is backups. Are our backups 100% on form for everything we do? And you basically you have to design that out of your system. You have to get it so that I don't want to be trawling through logs of backups every day. So how do we do it so that we get notified of failures? Where do those notifications come through to? How do we deal with it? And and sort of fast forward sort of 10 years. I mean, we designed that out pretty early because around that time we make sure your backups are solid, have manual restore testing processes, have automated restore testing processes, which has been a pretty much game changer for that. So you get sent a little screenshot of the server being up in the backup system, so it's booted the server up in the backup system, sent you a little screenshot to say, yeah, I can just flip you over to a live working version of the backup instantly, and those things are really great. But recently, it's all cyber threats. What happens if somebody gets phished and gives out their password details at 3 o'clock in the morning, because we support clients worldwide. So, and the thing that's helped us with that is having a 24/7 security operations team provided by some of our products that we provide to our customers. And that's, again, it's those things that I don't mind getting a text or a phone call in the middle of the night if it's urgent and critical, but I don't want to sit there and be worried when I'm first going to sleep about whether or not that's going to happen. And then, and that's that was key for us over the years, I think, is just having a good night's rest. Good night's rest.
I think that comes back, just to jump into what I said about kind of bundling in these products to clients. If we had a client that wasn't taking up adequate security, we would worry about them and think if they get hacked, they're going to consider it our responsibility. Obviously, it's not. At the end of the day, IT security is the responsibility of the business you're talking about. We're there to provide, to assist them with it, but they have to take responsibility because we don't choose their budget. But that's why we bundle all things together, so we know that if someone's on TechSolvers compliant, I don't have there's nothing worrying me about that client at night, or their security. I know it's right, and it's the same all the way down through the products, even on TechSolvers standard. I know they've got the bare minimum, but the minimum that they need, and they should be okay. Protect gives them a lot more, and that includes that 24/7 security operations center, which is very key to us, knowing that there's always someone on hand to spot when a breach, if and when a breach does happen.
Why do you think security like threats are becoming such, a much bigger thing? Is it just because like there's just more technology, more people, more users using technology? Like what are your kind of thoughts on that being such a big, emerging trend and situation?
Money.
Okay.
At the end of the day. So IT used to do certain things. Now IT controls everything. If you can breach a company, you can take trade secrets, you can perform invoice fraud, you can use that first breach to expand into their clients. All these things about malicious people trying to take advantage of companies. And at the end of the day, malicious people are doing that so that they're somehow going to make some money out of it. And there are so many systems and so many passwords, and the opportunities for the malicious people are growing and growing and growing. And the barriers of entry to become a malicious person is not that difficult. Start sending some spam and some phishing messages. And if you target, you might send 5,000 phishing messages with a malicious link. All you've got to do is get one person to click on it, and then without adequate protection, then they're breached and you're into their account. And what else can you find from there? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a very simple answer that makes a lot of sense. So yeah.
I was once told by a very high senior cybersecurity person about 20 years ago, and we were talking about what should you spend on IT security at the time, and the first question you ask yourself is, what is the value of the thing I am trying to protect? And only when you know that can you then start thinking about how much money you should spend on the backup of it, on the security of it. If it's got no value, it's not really worth. There's obviously not worth spending much money on it. But if your system is worth £1 million to you every year, then it's worth spending a considerable amount of money making sure you don't lose that system.
Yeah. There's so I kind of tinker around, and I'm not technical at all. I don't know as a programmer or anything, but I tinker around with like Cursor, that kind of thing where you can just use AI to build little apps and tools. But it's like I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to programming it, and I do think, and I read something like recently that you need to be really careful because the security breaches that could exist if you're creating stuff and without the understanding is wide open. So yeah, that kind of just made me think like, yeah, I definitely need to do my due diligence with what I'm potentially creating, potentially putting out there that could have any value attached to it when it comes to breaching of money or.
It's one of the things these days. You've got a number of our customers, you've got some really intelligent people working at these organizations, and they're seeing all this stuff that IT and AI can do, but they're not thinking about it from a security point of view. So for example, they might be trying to add something into their company's Office 365 subscription, adding an enterprise application. Oh yeah, just give this new AI tool access to Office 365. And by default, if you just set up Office 365, any user can do that and can install an enterprise application. But that gives that enterprise application access to considerably more in your tenant than that person is really realizing. So we have to make sure, so we have to lock things down. So in that example, we prevent users from installing enterprise applications. Yes, you get the occasional one going, well, why can't I do this? I'm not doing anything wrong. I should be able to do it. It's like, we're not doing it to stop you. We're doing it so we can have a conversation with you, so we can make sure what you are doing is right, that you're not using anything malicious, and then we can allow that action and you can move on. But we have to slow this down. Otherwise, these people who are trying to do the right thing will eventually cause themselves problems they hadn't even anticipated.
Yeah, for sure. It's making a lot of sense to me why this is. This the security breaches it's growing massively, and it makes a lot of sense because you can just plug AI agents into all sorts of different things, like cobbling and integrating things together, and it's click button easy to do that kind of thing now, as long as you kind of know what you're doing in an interface to build stuff out. But yeah, you unless you're thinking about the security, like you're really not, unless you're made aware of it. For sure. What's so when it comes to what really keeps you awake at night, it's more of those, the client problems, those kind of things. What about, growth challenges that you might have as a business? Does it ever concern you, not growing or running out of runway? Is any of that ever a concern when it comes to growth?
I think an MSP job's an MSP's job for sales is very difficult. You speak to any of the MSPs out there, and they say sales is the most difficult thing. And it is. You're talking about, how do you go and speak to somebody you don't know and say, well, can you give me £5,000 a month straight off the bat without them knowing you and everything like that. So the process of sales can take anything between let's say for a sort of a 50 user organization, that's concept of sale from the initial contact through to to actually starting the support service can take anything between 6 months and 2 years. That you have to build up that level of trust, and that's where it becomes sort of difficult. And so everything in our business is referral based. That's how we built our businesses, through referrals. Yes, we've had some come in through the website. We've had some come out from cold calling and stuff like that, and bits and pieces. But marketing is difficult. But we were told, I think, on our first ever sales meeting, when we first started, we went and see a guy in Chelsea, and he said to us, he says, what you need to do is sell buns and baguettes. And we kind of like questioned him on it. Says, if you can sell somebody a bun, you can eventually turn it into a baguette. And it was a good bit of advice that the TechSolvers side of me, we just want you to buy the standard tiers and everything like that. But don't forget, we use multiple products. So going out to a client and saying, well, what can we do for you in the meantime, rather than saying, you've got to spend £5,000 a month on your IT support and services and all the software that goes with it. What can we do for you to let us, start a relationship? And that's key. It's just, but sales is hard.
Yeah. So you mentioned trust is absolutely key when it comes to building those relationships to generate new clients, new business. What works well for you?
The simplest one is the owner of one of our existing clients referring someone he's friends with who owns a business. The level of trust passes just seamlessly across. And that we have spotted, there are links between the companies that are clients that you can spot that we didn't even realize originally when some of them came on. But then you go, oh, somebody works there and is the mum of somebody who's works there, who's married to somebody who works there. And it goes across, this chain goes across 5 or 6 companies. And I think that just shows how effective referrals really are. And once you've got that trust, you get more out of it. And that by far and away has been the best way of us getting new clients, but it's not the only way.
The website SEO stuff helps. We've, as I said, we've taken our foot off the gas a little bit, and so we've been working a little bit on the website recently. We've got a few bits and pieces still to do, but already we're seeing our ranks go from page 2, which isn't bad really, for somebody who hasn't done anything with their SEO for 5-6 years, to being on page 2, and now we're back on page 1. We're moving. It looks like we're moving up towards the top. So we just got to keep on. It's not about the amount of work we need to put into it, but it needs to be consistent. But yeah, referrals, and don't forget, you've got an existing customer base there as well. So do they know everything you're selling? What are your products? I mean, we've gone through a big process of these 3 tiers. So they're all, they all pretty much know what we're doing. But then since then, another couple of products have come on board, and we're sort of reaching out to clients to say that if enough of you, sort of buy into this, then we'll make this part of our offerings going forwards and seeing what we do. But we do work with our clients on that. It's not really a sale. It's soft sales. It's we're working with our clients. We're understanding what they want, and there's also this kind of thing that happens around the things naturally happen. You'll get one client that asks you a question and says, "Oh, I'm looking into having this conferencing system. You go, well, we don't really do conferencing systems and stuff like that. We can recommend you a team. And then suddenly you get 5 or 6 pop out the woodwork all at the same time. You go, well, maybe I should learn how to set up conferencing systems. We do it from the Office 365 stuff, but not from the physical putting up onto the walls and bits and pieces and designing them. So, but the time to customers just ask you a question, and then suddenly all of your customers are asking you the same question, or at least 50% of it. You go, well, it says, it's not some article that they've all read. It seems the natural progression in their business and technology and how we've all been working all seems to hit our level of client at a very similar time. But,
just to touch back on it and going back to what you said about what does work for us, referrals, and as we said, we're trying to improve our sales and marketing now. But how do we get across being trusted? And I think that's one of the reasons we're here. By actually doing some videos, interviews, blogs, potentially clients can watch this, get a better understanding on this. That might be something that can help get trust quicker. So actually seeing people and we're seeing the human faces behind everything. Hopefully that's why we're here.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy, some of the stats out there actually, that trust is built so much by the leaders of the company being out there and building a bit of a just showing the face behind the company and building that trust. Just a little bit of a brand, and just to really get your face out there, so it's not just a faceless company. And also that's because of AI now, it's so easy to pump out content, and the volume has turned up crazily, that the authentic, getting on video from founders, and it's a strong way to position for sure, and it's becoming even more for sure. What are you both most excited about right now? What excites you most about the growth and where you're going?
You jump in, Tom. Yeah, sorry.
I just think it's, as I said, we're always excited by what we're doing, but I'm trying to think, AI coming along is scary but great, and what we can do with it's going to be a long time before AI can start. You're going to trust AI to have direct access to your IT systems to manage your business. We all know, or hopefully all know, that AI has a habit of hallucinating and making things up. So you wouldn't really want to trust it 100%. And I think that's going to be the case for a long time. But any business that is fearful of AI in these days is probably going to lose out, in my opinion. We need to embrace it, but we need to embrace it with care. And I think that's really exciting what we can start doing. We use it day to day. I use multiple AI platforms to do work. Different ones have different benefits. You have to be very careful and think about it. What data am I putting into these? What questions am I asking? And therefore we have different AIs. So Microsoft Copilot, for example, being the one I can say the most things. It can read my inbox. It can see our documents in SharePoint. That's really private. But ChatGPT, yes, pay for a subscription. Make sure you click the buttons to make sure it's private. Is it still private? I still wouldn't want to put personal data into it. But the ChatGPTs, the Grok AIs, for actual coding questions, for how do I do this with PowerShell? How can I automate this technical task? There's no personal information in there. There's very little to be concerned about. So that speeds us up no end. And then the trend is, we're never going to be able to replace the humans on a service desk completely with AI. But there are simple tasks such as dispatching. When tickets come in, they need to be categorized, and urgency needs to be set. Maybe a little bit of initial research needs to be done about the problem that's coming in. And by having an AI triage the tickets as they come in, we should be able to get faster resolution of the tickets, good for the clients. But this is not with AI in charge. This is AI spotting that this is an Outlook problem, or this person needs their laptop reset, or setting these categories, putting a couple of links in that this might be a useful document pointing to our internal documentation. It's there to help the engineer. It's not there to replace the engineer, and that's going to be an interesting thing to see how that all works out over the next coming few years.
Absolutely. I mean, once we're happy with the security and stuff like that, because you don't know what a customer's going to send into your system, right? So they could be sending in their own passwords and stuff like that. So those AI bots, let's call them, is we've got to make sure that we have the data they're retrieving is completely within our control. Otherwise, is what Tom said at the beginning. It's you've got to be aware of what's coming in, because we can't guarantee what's coming into these systems from our clients. So we need to protect that. But no, it is exciting. I mean, from my point of view, the excitement is it's just a change. I still feel really enthused about IT. I've always loved IT. I didn't start in an IT background. I started in a motor mechanics background. So when I left school and everything like that, and I sort of kind of fell backwards into IT and found I had a natural affinity for it. And and it still excites me every day, because it's constantly evolving. Our customer, and having our customers call in, and on occasion I'll pick up the phone to a Helpdesk call and just speak to end users, and it's refreshing. It's great. I love my business. Yeah.
That was a huge contradiction to you saying at the start of this podcast that you'd love to just go out and maybe be a freelancer, work 9 to 5, travel around.
That's after the business. That's after the business.
That's after the exit.
after the exit, whenever that may be. This time next year.
Yeah. No, it is. I mean, I'm right there with you. Like, I love, in different ways, because I'm not technical, but I love technology, and I love, AI is very much like you said, Tom. It's scary and exciting at the same time. So it's like navigating those two sort of minds around everything that's going on is pretty interesting to me. But yeah, we're in very exciting times, and yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, really appreciate having you both on. It was like really interesting conversation. You shared some really good insights. Where can people find out more about you online?
Well, there's our website, which is, if you just type in TechSolvers into Google, you'll find it. But it's actually got a URL of itsupportlondon.org. That strikes back from when we were doing SEO. It's actually being readjusted to point back towards techsolvers.co.uk in the coming weeks. And then there's obviously LinkedIn.
Yeah, follow us on LinkedIn. Tom Mitchell, Phil Long. We're here.
Amazing.
If you want us to drop us an email, it's inquiries@techsolvers.co.uk. And
awesome.
And if you want to speak to us, call our number on the website. Choose option 2 for sales, and come through to Tom or I.
Sounds great, and I'll put those links in the description as well. Again, really appreciate you coming on. Really interesting to hear from you both about what's going on with the MSP world, like the security world, and everything with AI and how technology is advancing. And really appreciate it. And I'll be watching the growth of both yourselves and TechSolvers with great interest.
Cool. Well, it's been a pleasure, James. Really appreciate the invite.
Yeah.
Thanks
for some great questions, and letting us talk about our business for a bit. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right.